He's not going to give you the mic.
No, I'll hold it. So, thank you, Nikki. I wanted to ask you, so Chris Christie thinks that you're a flip-flopper on the Donald Trump issue. And honestly, I agree with him. And you're basically the new John Kerry on the... if you remember John Kerry from 2004. So my question is, how can you change your opinion like that in just 8 years? And will you pardon Donald Trump?
Things are not looking good for Nikki Haley, the Republican presidential candidate who was once seen as a possible contender for the GOP nomination. Hi everybody, Happy New Year. Nikki Haley isn't anyone's favorite, I think that's fairly safe to say, but she was safe enough to have once been considered a potential presidential nominee for the Republicans over Trump. Of course, we all know that the Republicans will just end up nominating Trump by the end of all of this, so none of this actually really matters. But for a while there, she was on the GOP shortlist of possibilities, along with a few others like Ron DeSantis. But Haley suffered a few setbacks lately. At a recent town hall, a 9-year-old in the 4th grade told Nikki Haley that he, like Chris Christie, thinks that she is a flip-flopper. And then he compared her to John Kerry. Now that's rough, especially coming from a kid who wasn't even alive during the time that Kerry was running for president. He then asked her how her opinion could change in, quote, just 8 years, which again is rough coming from a kid who's only 9 years old. And to be fair, a lot can change in 8 years, including someone's personal beliefs. The Republicans have a Trump problem, and they have had a Trump problem for years. They created this problem themselves, or at the very least, they didn't stop the problem from festering within the party once they became aware of the problem. Now, as in previous election cycles, the Republican presidential hopefuls have to play this strange game of not criticizing the former president lest they alienate his base, while also discrediting him as a viable presidential candidate as they would any of their other competitors/colleagues vying for the role. Some choose to just ignore Trump and run their own campaign. Some choose to attack him relentlessly in the hopes of drawing in more common sense, old school Republican votes rather than courting the MAGA base. And Nikki Haley has chosen to do neither, or both. She maintains the position that Trump was the right president for the time that he was president, but going forward in 2024 and beyond, he is not the right president. She is, I guess. In response to the kid's question, Haley said, quote, Chris Christie is obsessed with Trump. He sleeps, eats, and breathes it every day. I'm thinking bigger than that. That's what we're trying to get away from, is the idea that we obsess about a person. This is a country. We're better than that. We're bigger than that. So I am who I am. I told you my truth just as you told your truth, except I am no John Kerry.
People like my friends Chris Christie are going to say she's a flip-flopper. But let's look at it. What's he saying I'm flip-flopping on? He's basically saying that I'm not hitting Trump hard enough, right? The interesting part of this whole situation is anti-Trumpers think I don't hate him enough, and pro-Trumpers think I don't love him enough. And at the end of the day, the fact is, I'm just telling you the truth like I see it. Chris is obsessed with Trump. I mean, God bless him. He's a friend. He's obsessed with Trump. He sleeps, eats, and breathes it every day. I'm thinking bigger than that. If we do that, we're no different than Trump. That's what we're trying to get away from, is the idea that we obsess about a person. This is about a country. We're better than that. We're bigger than that. So I am who I am. I tell my truth just like you told your truth, except I am no John Kerry.
Haley, outside of this town hall, has maintained that if Trump faced any consequences for his actions, just a reminder, he's been accused now of committing 91 felonies, it would only serve to create more division within the country. She thinks it's in the best interest of the country that we just pardon him for everything he's done and move on with our American lives. And that's so misguided, I almost don't even know what to say in response. But as far as divisiveness goes, the country is already divided over Trump. Conviction won't make much of a difference. It might, yes, cause some uprisings amongst the people who already are mad about the allegations against him, but I don't think anyone's going to hop over to the Trump is a victim bandwagon who hasn't already. Last month, Haley, who was born in South Carolina, a former Confederate state, refused to acknowledge that slavery was the root cause of the Civil War during a televised debate, leading to a backlash that she has yet to recover from. She peddled out that whole, states' rights argument instead, an argument that I recognize as being ridiculous when I first heard it when I was a child. Also, an old article has been circulating lately reminding people that Nikki Haley listed her race as white on a voter registration form back in 2001. At that point, she would have already been married to her white husband and changed her last name to Haley. So, some quick background for those of you who don't know. Nikki Haley was born Nimrata Randhawa. She was born in South Carolina to Punjabi Sikh parents who had just immigrated from India. Her parents are Ajit Singh and Raj Kaur Randhawa. She's not white, not remotely. Now, when I first heard about this whole voter registration thing, I thought maybe this was a technicality. I too was born in the US to immigrant parents. My ancestors were Punjabi, but when I was in elementary school back in the early 90s, I think, and I have to double check this with my parents, but I'm pretty sure my race was listed as white for a little bit. The reason for this was because there wasn't a large Asian population where I went to school, so the big classifiers were white, black, or Hispanic. Everyone else got listed as white by default. I went to a pretty diverse school, but there just weren't a lot of Asians. They did change it later though. But I haven't seen anything saying that white was the only option that was available to Haley on a statewide voter registration form in 2001. Besides, I'd be more willing to overlook it if she hadn't tried so hard throughout her career to be brown when it suited her and then to be white when it suited her. Her name alone, she went from Nimrata Randhawa to Nikki Haley. And I get that women traditionally change their names when they get married, so I can't reasonably be mad at her for doing that. But going from Nimrata to Nikki, she knew what she was doing. I, for the record, am about to marry a white dude, but I'm keeping my brown name. So Trump is now directing his ire directly at Haley, perhaps in an opportunistic attempt to kick her while she's down. That's how the game is played in politics, but Haley's unwillingness to attack Trump just as directly might be challenged going forward, putting her in a precarious position with the Republican electorate. All right, that's it for me. If you got anything out of this, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and check out my podcast, Modern Context. Thanks.